It's the most recognized Chinese mystery drama. It's also the only Chinese drama that has been bought by 192 countries. He not only became the #1 mystery drama when it was released, more than 620,000 people gave it a high score of 8.9. Although it's been 5 years, there are still more than 3 million users waiting for the second season. For the second season, he is the pinnacle of domestic suspense, day and night. So what's so great about this drama? You will see after my recaps. The story begins with high energy. On this day, the police found some strange plastic bags at a construction site. Inside the bags were corpses that had been disintegrated into countless pieces. Detective Zhou Sun and trainee Zhou Shutong arrived. They were waiting for the former captain of the Chongfeng detachment, Guan Hongfeng, now a police advisor. According to the preliminary investigation, there is no surveillance. There are no eyewitnesses. The only useful clues apart from the missing head and right arm of the body, only the footprints and tire tracks left at the scene. At first, Guan Hongfeng thought this is an ordinary case of broken bodies. However, after the preliminary forensic tests, the results greatly exceeded his knowledge. Because the pelvis and genitals of the deceased were cut open with a saw, and the body and limbs were chopped off with an axe. The most shocking thing to both of them was that all of this was done while the victim was still alive. Such a harmful method. Even Lao Guan couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. But before he could react, a new body appeared, except for 2 different left arms found at the scene. The rest of the bodies were nowhere to be found. According to the cleaner, he found the body parts during the daytime. Zhou Sun immediately deduced that the murderer should have dumped the bodies at night when no one was around. However, Zhou found something wrong with the bag. If the body was dumped last night, then there should be dew on this bag. It should have been dumped during the day. That's the problem. If the body was dumped early in the morning in a crowded park, why are there no witnesses? In order to solve this mystery, that night, the police reviewed the clues. While everyone was confused, Lao Guan once again showed his talent for deduction. He identified the murderer as a male wearing size 41 shoes. He was about 5 feet 7 inches tall. From the several sets of footprints found at the scene, only if he was carrying something heavy, it's possible to have such footprints. If he's right, this heavy object is the corpse. Meanwhile, the distance between the steps is about 60 centimeters. From this, we can deduce the murderer's height is around 1.7 meters. From the tire tracks left at the scene, Lao Guan concluded that the murderer dumped the body. The murderer must have been riding a bicycle or an electric car. Guan favors the latter, because in the case of pedal cycling, both feet will be on the pedal's back and forth force. That's why the wheel marks are of different shades. But from the footprints left at the scene, the depth of the tire tracks has not changed. So it's more likely to be an electric car. Guan has always been able to make such deductions with ease. But this time, he had a hard time solving a seemingly unhelpful problem. Everyone thought Guan was suffocating, but only he knew. The reason why he couldn't answer. Because he is not Guan Hongfeng. He's Guan Hongfeng's brother, Guan Hongyu. Every time a man orders takeout, brother would always slap him. Because not long ago, there was a horrific murder case in the Golden Harbor city. The murderer was so cruel that he didn't even spare a 3-year-old child. From the footprints and fingerprints left at the scene, the only suspect in this murder case is his twin brother, Guan Hongyu. Guan Hongyu's wanted notice was soon posted all over Golden Harbor City. But Guan Hongfeng knew his brother can't do anything like killing someone, and he was sure there must be a hidden secret. So in order to find out the truth, he came up with a crazy plan. That is to make his brother become another self. For a long time, he has been tutoring his brother like crazy, and almost perversely controlled their weight. His brother also gave him a scar to duplicate himself. The younger brother finally used the identity of the older brother. However, on his first day on the job, he got into trouble. Recently in Golden Harbor, there have been 3 horrific cases of split bodies in a row. Except for the first body, the remaining 2 bodies, only 2 left hands were found. After preliminary examination by the forensic pathologist, the 2 left hands are a man and a woman. But the strange thing is the male victim's arm is smooth and no defensive wounds. But the female's arm has multiple bruises, and the skin on the wounds was inward, which means when the victim's arm was cut off, the body's self-healing system was still functioning. And coincidentally, that's when the police found a large number of stones. But the good news is there were no new victims this time. These pieces and the previous 2 left hands just formed 2 full guards. In the face of such brutal tactics, Hongwu was obviously a bit confused. So the next day, it was his brother's turn, and he only took one look at the body. He realized that the murderer was different. The cooling off period between murder and murder is so short that it's negligible. It's a classic spree murderer. Don't you get it? 24 hours isn't work time. If we don't catch the killer in 24 hours, you'll be waiting to collect the body of the new victim. Due to the time constraints, they didn't have time to run an in-ground test on the body. But from the lateral features of the ear and the similarity of the jawbone, Guan Hongfeng deduced these two victims are most likely brother and sister. And the female victim's fingernails and fingertips have traces of long-time exposure to chemicals. So it's very likely that the female victim was a dishwasher. From the results of the internal anatomy of the female organs, and based on the residual fatty acids and glycerin, she must have used prescription drugs like clotrimazole. Based on these clues, the police quickly launched a search for the identity of the deceased. However, Guan Hongfeng really cared about the first victim, because the first body the murderer deliberately hid his right hand and head if the murderer did not have a special hobby. Then the only possibility is the murderer has some kind of connection with the first victim because the serial sexual violence. The murderer will always choose someone they know well. They forget to find out the victim's identity. It's easy to follow the trail, but what he doesn't know is at this very moment, a mysterious man had already found his home and discovered his and his brother's secret. The bar business could be better. The boss has decided to take matters into her own hands, but what she didn't expect was not only did the customers not buy it, they would slap her every time. But the next day, the customer died on the street. At first, De Guan thought it was an ordinary murder, but as the investigation progressed, he realized this is not as simple as it seems. Because the dead man was no one else, it's the man he sent to prison 6 years ago, Old Chi. And the way he was killed was also quite special. Old Chi's body, not only did he have 3 serious but not fatal injuries, he had 35 cuts on his body. But the strange thing is, though 34 of the cuts were deep and visible, but they all avoided the vitals, not enough to be fatal at all. On the contrary, the most fatal stab. Not only did it penetrate the victim's pneumonia, and the murderer twisted the weapon after stabbing. That's strange, because those who have been there know, this kind of thing is all about speed and accuracy. Wouldn't the killer have done more than that? And just when De Guan was puzzled, forensics suddenly found the victim's cuts are flared and flat. This means that the murderer used a special knife with double-sided blades. And the method is also very professional. And this discovery soon made De Guan realize maybe there's more than one murderer this time. But what about the 3 blows? De Guan thought about it for half a minute, but he couldn't figure it out until he went home and met Xiao Guan. It turned out that the victim mistook him for Da Guan before he was killed. So you're the one who came out. The result was that Guan beat him up. He was so angry, he wanted to kill him on the spot. And it seems that he had an altercation with someone. Brothers here first paused. The police soon found out prior to the Old Chi drinking. It was his ex-brother-in-arms, Banshee. But according to his statement, the reason why he invited Chi to drink was to celebrate his brother's release from prison yesterday. But Chi thought he was trying to humiliate him. That's why there was an altercation. Although the demon girl's words are reasonable, she was sincere. De Guan felt something was wrong, so they interrogated her. But unexpectedly, they found an important clue. It turned out that she wasn't there just to receive the guests. She was asking Chi to help her with the goods. But Chi is not a man of virtue. Not only did he take the money, but he didn't do anything. He even threatened to report her. So she sent her men to follow her quietly. But it didn't matter. And then, she arrived at the scene. Lao Chi took her for the person who cut him and dragged him to the police station. In the end, she was in a hurry and stabbed him. With his brother's statement, Zhou Sun thought the case was solved. But what he didn't expect was not only did she not admit to the murder, she said she killed Chi. This is great. At that moment, a couple of old men suddenly came to the door of the police station. I came to turn myself in. The old man confessed he was the one who chopped up the victim, and the reason was for his dead daughter. It turns out the old couple's daughter was brain dead in an accident, but despite his partner's objection, the righteous old man Gung donated his daughter's heart, and the recipient of the donation was the bar owner's wife. Since then, old Gung would sneak in to see the owner's wife from time to time, as if he were looking at his own daughter. But this day, he saw an extremely heartbreaking scene. So he wanted to teach Lao Chi a lesson. That's why he avoided the vitals with all his blades. If Chi had been caught in time, his life wouldn't have been in danger. But after he left, he was afraid that no one would find him. So he decided to go back and take a look. And just as he arrived, he saw the demon goddess killing Lao Chi.